Hi, I'm Danielle Campbell and I'm here at Busby Ranch in Millsap, Texas. And right now we're going to go over one of my favorite drills. It's my circle, don't judge the circle, but it's my circular tire drill. One thing I want to say about drills before we get started though is drills aren't necessarily about a set pattern or, set obstacles that you go around. Drills are in your head. The only thing we do drills for is to reinforce proper body positioning and generally relaxation in our horses. So be creative, come up with your own. You don't always need barrels, you don't always need tires. You can use bushes, trees, round bales in the pasture if you live somewhere where they do that. Invisible objects on the ground. Again, drills are simply something we use to better our horses and even our own horsemanship. So you don't always need an obstacle. That being said, the reason I really like the tire drill more than anything else is the fact there are tires there. It gives me, the rider, a guideline of what I'm doing and where I'm going, and it also takes the anticipation away from a horse. So for example, if I'm on a young horse who maybe has never been around the barrels before, I can teach body positioning without a large barrel or even, a cone stands higher and is bright. A tire is pretty obsolete down there on the ground. It's basically a guideline for us. I can teach this horse proper body positioning and how to move his feet, giving myself a visual aid, but without him really associating himself to it. And as far as an open horse goes, or one that's already going around the barrels, I think it really helps to teach good body positioning and keeping a horse honest throughout a turn without anticipating the turn and diving in like they might a barrel. Like if you have a nice barrel horse and they know that they have to turn that barrel, so there's almost like you got a magnet and they're always sucking towards it, where with a tire you tend to lose that. So you can really focus more on what your horse's body is doing without the sometimes burden of having an actual barrel in the way. So that's how come I really like this drill. That being said, I set barrels up in all sorts of different patterns all the time and just make drills up as I go, because again, it's all about keeping it fun for the horse and their body position. So be creative when you do it. Just know the goal that you're trying to achieve and stay consistent and work towards it. Now, to the tire drill. There's a few different ways that I can do this, but it always starts out the same, and it usually starts out on a really, really green horse who's never seen a barrel and isn't super broke a lot of times. But basically what I'm gonna do, and I'm gonna walk while I talk just to start with, is I'm gonna pick a direction, and it's gonna be to the right now, and I'm basically gonna go around the outside of these tires, and I'm gonna turn every one to the right when I get to it. There's a couple variations you can do. In between tires, you can hold bend in this horse's body without letting him flow out or move in. If you want to work on a horse holding their shape and keeping a frame and keeping their shoulders up, that's what you would do. So when I turn this tire, and I'm going to look to the next one just like it were a barrel, give my horse pocket, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep the tire in the center of my circle. You'll notice maybe this horse, he kind of does tend to get a little sticky in his shoulders. So this tire drill is especially good for him. And by sticky in the shoulders, I mean, he'll kind of, when I tip his nose, he's always wanting to fall to the inside of the circle. He doesn't always want to keep that shoulder up and moving forward. So we'll do this with him, make him hold this shape all the way through this next turn. The other variation you can do, and it kind of works, on multiple things with your horse, is coming around this, just like you're leaving a barrel. Let his head go. And then if you need to work on gathering one and getting him soft before a turn at the last minute, like you would a barrel run, then you ask to pick him up and get soft again right when you get there. So if you're on a super green horse, you kind of start off at a walk. But if you're on one that knows a little more, and sometimes you're gonna fumble your way through it, this exercise isn't always as easy as it looks. But again, we're focusing on body control. It's not near as much about the pattern as about what my horse is doing. So I want him to stay soft, round, And right now, I'm gonna go ahead and make this horse stay soft and round all the way to the next one. And I'll get after him if he goes to get stiff or fall in. Like, I'm not gonna allow him to make a mistake. I'm using this drill as a way to get my horse right. So I'm gonna make sure that he's doing everything exactly the way I want him to. Gonna go ahead and pick up a lope. I'm gonna let him lope a circle here, so around it while I talk. Ideally, I like to turn every single tire, but if one's bracy, I have a rule. I never let one start the turn if they're not soft and set up for the turn. I try to make turning a reward for having a soft body. So I'll skip a tire if they're being pushy, and that I'll make them go until they're soft and ready. But notice I'm gonna work on keeping that tire in the middle of my circle. If you want to work on acceleration out of a turn, you can treat it just like a barrel. Bring them all the way around and then cluck to them to get them to leave. If you're trying to get one to relax and be patient, you don't need to do that. There's so many things you can do with this drill. You just have to, again, know what you're doing, what you're looking for, and then use this tire drill to do it. But one thing it is going to do is it's going to teach them to stay soft, patient, fluid, always staying round in this circle. Going to switch directions here, show off my lack of flying lead change abilities, lope him around a little. And by the way, I just stepped on him. You can tell he's a little fresh. He's 3 years old. But I'll do this at home as part of my warm-up. Like, this is exactly what I'll do before I work a horse. I have these tires set up, and I'll bring him over here. He's not really wanting to come back to me. There he goes. So I'm not gonna let him turn until I know that I can get him collected and turn a tire, okay? It's not a speed event, and I'm dang sure not gonna let him do it if he's not gonna be in the right body position, so. Use my inside leg, get him soft, keep his nose coming around. And basically, he's just having to listen to me. I mean, he knows there's tires here, but again, it's not like a barrel. He's not having to, you know, he's not associating this so much with a turn. He's associating this more with what my legs, my hands, and my body are asking him to do. And notice this inside hand is always staying in the same position. I'm not lifting across his neck. I'm not doing anything. I'm keeping my elbows bent, my hands right here, guiding his nose around, using my inside foot. Anytime he feels like he's floating out, I'm just gonna drive him forward with both legs. Whoa. Okay, so that's one variation. There's all kinds of ways to do this. Have fun with it. Another thing I really love about this exercise is I started incorporating some shoulder control and counter arcing with it, and I generally just do it at a walk and a trot. These tires are set up, I'm gonna say between 25 and 30 feet apart. It's a pretty good distance if you really wanna work. You can set them up 20 feet apart if you like, if you want to work on like quicker stuff and more foot action. Sometime if I'm doing figure eights, I will, but one thing I do with this a lot, and you kind of got to think your way through it, a lot of people struggle, but is I'm going to pick a direction. I'm going to pick which way I want to tip my horse's nose, and right now we're going to say that I'm going to tip his nose to the left. So everything I do is going to be with his nose tipped to the left. So I'm going to turn this tire, and then I'm going to come to the outside of the next one. This is important. And I'm going to keep his nose tipped and counter arc him. This is a weak spot for this horse. Like I said, he has sticky shoulders, so that means picking him up and moving him he's not great at, which is why this exercise is perfect for him. I'm never going to let his nose go Notice when I counter arc, I am bumping him a little with this hand, my right hand, just to aid me. But for the most part, I'm only using my left rein and I'm keeping my left hand on the left side of his neck. I never want to cross over his neck. No matter how much I'm struggling, I'm going to use my foot to move his body. I'm not going to cross my hand over his neck. As soon as I do that, I lose my rib control, okay? And what we're trying to do is keep this horse loose in his ribs so we have shoulder movement. And you'll see, like when you counter arc off of this tire, see how he's nice and round and his shoulders are picked up and ready for the turn? That's the other great thing about this exercise, is you're making a horse follow their shoulders around, but you're also teaching them, hey, when you get to a turn, you gotta be picked up, soft, and then hold it through it. Like I said, I usually only do this part of this exercise at a trot. You can lope it, but then you're kind of dealing with leads and, you know, when you counter arc, they're switching. And I mean, some horses really master at it, but I don't want to work them so, I don't want to make it so confusing that I lose sight of what I'm actually trying to do. And what I'm trying to do is just control their shoulders. And I'm real big on forward motion. So long trotting works great for me anyways. I trot more circles than I ever lope, just because I like to teach a horse to really reach with all 4 feet. And a lot of times when you're loping, especially if they get hot or nervous, they start taking short little choppy steps, and I just don't believe in that. I like a lot of reach in my horses, so trotting works great for me. Another thing you can do is put a barrel or another tire directly in the center of this circle. And you can kind of incorporate that. Actually, while I'm doing this, Katie, will you run and set a barrel up right in the middle of this, please? But again, when you're doing this, this is the part of the pattern that is pretty important. My circle is going to the counterclockwise left, but his nose is always tipped to the right, okay? So you turn on the inside of a tire and you counter arc on the outside. Thank you, just right in the center. So another thing I might do is counter arc him right there, come up and let him turn this barrel, cross over your tracks, counter arc the next tire the whole way around. Lots of inside leg, there we go. Get that body soft, get him over, turn that barrel, cross over the tracks you came in on, that way you made more of a complete turn. And now the turn is easy and it's a reward. He has to work out here counter arcing, but the barrel in the center, hey, hey. This will happen sometimes. There we go. Just a little reminder that he's got to give his head and move forward at the same time. You'll see a lot of times also, like 90% of the time when I'm training young horses, I'm just in split reins and a snaffle. I don't always put martingales or, you know, headgear like that on them, because at the end of the day, I need him to respond off of my hands alone and the reins, because that's how I'm going to run him. So I need to get him soft. If I'm really struggling, or the horse is, I might put a martingale of some form on occasionally. I certainly have them. But for the most part, I just want to use my hands and my legs to create softness, forward motion, without putting any kind of martingale. Another thing you can do is just kind of do some figure eights with these tires. I'm just showing you everything I do, warming horses up, keeping them soft, things I do with babies, things I do with open horses. Doesn't matter, but notice every time I turn, it's the same thing. I'm teaching them by repetition. Inside leg, inside hand, get soft in your body, move forward the whole way through your turn. I never go too wide, but I'm never on top of it. The reason I don't turn too tight is because the tighter a horse turns in this slow work, the choppier, shorter their steps are. It's just like if you get off and you're gonna run a circle and I say, run the smallest circle you can, you're gonna take these short little choppy steps running a super tight circle. And now if I'm like, okay, now go run a 10-foot circle, your legs are gonna reach, and that's what I want a horse to do. So I keep them far enough away that they're still able to reach out. So this is the tire drill. Like I said, you can incorporate a lot of things with it, but it's something that I use almost every day on every horse. I mean, it's really been invaluable to help me get the body positioning, the softness. A horse is quiet when they do it, or at least will get that way really soon, because they're not associating it with barrels or the barrel pattern. So I think it's just invaluable to use in your training, and probably because of that, it is my favorite drill.